Well, Pakistan says it will respond to these strikes by India, but didn't provide any further details. So, are they imminent? Maliha Lodhi is Pakistan's former ambassador to the United Nations, and she joins me live now from Islamabad. Maliha, good to have you back on the program. Now, firstly, is it fair to say from a Pakistani point of view that this retaliation from India was always going to happen?
Well, that's the whole point, that every so many years, India decides to cross the border and either lob missiles across the border or undertake airstrikes. And I think what Pakistan will want to do this time round is to re-establish deterrence. It will want to ensure that India's actions to violate international law and violate its borders doesn't become the new normal, which is why Pakistan has said it reserves the right to respond. It's already responded by downing these 5 aircraft, as you know. It has also destroyed a number of Indian posts along the line of control. But this is not regarded as sufficient. So I think we're going to see more action in the days to come.
Yes, and how do you expect that action to materialize? And is that what you're talking about in terms of deterrence?
Well, one thing Pakistan will not do, which the Indians have done, which is to target civilians. The idea is not to inflict that kind of pain or punishment on the people, but to focus on military targets. But I'm not aware of the exact nature and scope of Pakistan's retaliation.
Now, what do we know about these general areas that were targeted? Muzaffarabad and Kotli in Pakistan, administered Kashmir, and Bahawalpur in Punjab province of Pakistan. Are they known to be sort of havens for terrorist organizations?
I mean, if there's a country that's accusing you, they can claim terrorists are anywhere. But I think the point here is to see the evidence. Where is the evidence to indicate that there were terrorist launch pads or terrorist havens in any part of the places or the sites where India bombed? In fact, 26 civilians lost their lives. These were not terrorists. Women and children, they were not terrorists. So I think the onus is on India to explain why it targeted these places and what did it achieve?
You were talking about the possibility that Pakistan will strike back, but not to civilian targets. What might it target in India?
Well, it's very hard for me to speculate on that. I think we have to wait and see. But I do think we should also take note of behind-the-scenes diplomacy that's going on right now. As you know, the United States has been involved and engaged in trying to urge restraint on both sides. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has spoken more than once to officials in both India and Pakistan. And after the Indian attack, Mr. Rubio spoke again to Indian and Pakistani officials. Again, the message was restraint. And I think we should also recall that in the last 4 crises that India and Pakistan have seen in the last 20, 25 years, it was the United States every time that came in as a kind of a fire brigade to diffuse the crisis.
Now, what do you make, in terms of groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba, groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed, these are groups that have been operating there. It's well known. It's also been acknowledged by the Pakistani government. And, we heard from the information minister about a week ago in that interview with Sky News, admitting pretty much that, it is perhaps in some way providing support for the groups and saying in terms of what he had to say that they're doing the, quote, dirty work for the West, for the US and the UK. What do you make of that?
Well, I know that the defense minister said something along those lines, but I think the important issue for us is that there is an unresolved dispute in Kashmir between India and Pakistan. They've gone to war over Kashmir several times. They've had crises several times. India has a certain narrative. Pakistan has a different narrative. So really the need is for the two countries to re-engage, to find a diplomatic solution to this. Otherwise, this will go on and on and on. And it doesn't really benefit either side, frankly. So I'm certainly hoping that once this crisis is diffused, some kind of a back channel is restored or established between the two countries that are able to address the issues of concern to both sides. Clearly, Terrorism is the issue which is of concern to India. The unresolved nature of the Kashmir dispute is what is Pakistan's top priority. And then, of course, there are other issues and disputes that divide the two countries. No, there's no substitute for dialogue. I mean, the two countries can't keep lobbing missiles at each other every 3 years or airstrikes against each other, whatever the case is. Military confrontation between two nuclear neighbors is fraught with huge risk. And even as I speak, that risk is there because either side can make a miscalculation, and then we can have an uncontrolled escalatory spiral, which nobody is able to control.
Is this risk of a possible nuclear response perhaps the most unprecedented since independence, I suppose?
Well, I think both countries, since both countries went nuclear, have realized and recognized and acknowledged the limits of what they can do militarily and not want to provoke a bigger crisis or an all-out conflict. So nuclear deterrence in that sense has worked. There has been no all-out war between the two countries since 1971. But again, I would say, we can't be sanguine about these things. We can't take these things for granted. And therefore, there's a need for a dialogue, for a nuclear dialogue, for a dialogue that addresses or tries to address the disputes that divide the two countries.
Okay, Maliha Lodhi, we'll leave it there, but thank you very much for speaking to us today.